Hey YouTube, I know it's been a while, but welcome back to Model Railroad Operations and the next update on the SCR layout build. Now these first few images here, I am doing some minor scenic work, just some base level stuff, adding in the log pond at the lumber mill on the second deck, and just cutting away the foam and that sort of stuff. And now there's a few new faces on the railroad property. I got a couple engines back from Nico over at Sonoma Custom Models, and I'll link him down in the description if you're interested in his services because he does a great job. Then a bit later on, I made another visit to Interurban Aero's workshop over in Oakland and ran some trains around his layout for a little while. The first one you see there is being pulled by a Santa Fe F7, a former passenger unit. He's modeling it as if it's in its last few years of service in freight service. And he really did a lot of extra detailing work on that engine and really did a great job on it. And then the steam engine you see there is one of the Broadway Limited Paragon 4 Santa Fe Mikados. You'll notice that we turned the sound off for this because you have to admit, at a certain point, as great as Paragon 4 sound is, it does get a bit loud and obnoxious sometimes, so we just turned it off. But yeah, this is a neat little manifest he's got going around the layout, and had a good time over at Miles, as I usually do. So I'll, again, link him down in the description for you to check out his content. Now back on the layout, we have some new units arriving for service. I got some Western Pacific engines, Atherin Genesis Tsunami 2, so these sound really nice. I got a Sacramento Northern GP7, Western Pacific FP7 passenger unit, and a GP40-2. So these will be in through freight and hotshot service, respectively. The older units will be in through freight service, and the GP40 will be in hotshot service. And later on, I went on to weather these engines, but weathering is really for another video. So now, these next few shots here, everybody thinks that with model railroading, you expand, but sometimes, you know, you have to scale things back a little bit. Sometimes it's good to scale things back. So I wound up getting rid of that section over the helix. It just the grade was too steep going up to it, and didn't really like it, and I'm trying to scale back my operation to have a more manageable fleet of engines and rolling stock and so on and so forth. So I kind of moved some of the industries that were on top over to underneath the cabinets there. You can still reach them and everything, but yeah, that's just how it kind of turned out in the end. And at this point, I also decided to switch to car card and waybills for operations. I was just finding JMRI a bit too complicated for my purposes, and plus I kind of like the tactile feel, so I switched over to car cards and waybills. Now here's a little magic trick, a little before and after shot. I guess, yeah, it's before and after shot of me painting the track on the second level. So it looks pretty good. And now I am in the process of laying the branch line on the second level. And in this next video clip, you will see the first train movement on the branch, consisting of a patched Seaboard System B36-7 and a couple cars. I know this engine is a bit late era for the 1970s that I'm modeling on my layouts, but you know what? Of course, it's my railroad, and also I decided, you know what, I'm going to play it kind of fast and loose with the eras and whatnot. So you'll see some later engines or some earlier freight cars and that sort of stuff. You know, it's just kind of, I'm just going to have it be a fluid kind of general 70s era with some exceptions here and there. But now comes a part of the building process that I was kind of dreading, and that was constructing the helix to the third level. But surprisingly enough, the construction actually went a lot smoother than I expected, thanks in no small part to the simple helix construction of Trackside Scenery's helix kits. And now here's a moment that I have been waiting for a long time in the construction of this layout, constructing the narrow gauge section. So that's the first track down, the little the transfer terminal, the interchange on the third level. So got the narrow gauge down, and in this next clip right here, this is another big moment in the layout's construction. The first engine movement on the narrow gauge. And this is a Blackstone K27, kind of crudely weathered. I eventually went back and did a better job of it. But it is lettered for the Carson to Colorado Railroad, which is, in essence, what I'm modeling here, since this is set in the Sierra Nevadas. If you remember the whole video I made about the layout's concept, I'm doing it as a sort of fictitious extension of the CNC into the Sierras using secondhand Rio Grande equipment. So here is the first engine movement on the narrow gauge. And these last few images here are the last of the track laying on the layout. This is the grade up to the narrow gauge town that is over the other helix, although this time I did a over the helix section right. Real simple construction, just gator board, super light. It's good enough to handle narrow gauge trains. And here's the little staging yard for the narrow gauge that's representing Minden, Nevada, in the interchange with the Virginia and Truckee. And here's an overall shot of the narrow gauge town called Bear Valley. And lastly, here's a shot of the layout as a whole. Now I want to thank you for watching this video. I know this style is not the most entertaining by any means, but really I consider model railroading an escape. So this is just what I want to do here. I don't want this to become work per se, so I want this to still be fun. And stay tuned to the next video, because now all the grunt work is done. All the track has been laid, all the bench work and wiring and so on and so forth. So now it's time for the fun stuff, and that's going to consist of scenery and operations. So stay tuned to that. And again, I'll link all the people I interacted with in the description. And stay tuned for some more videos covering weathering projects I've done, and who knows, maybe we'll even see some scenery and operations in the not too distant future. So, hope you all do well, and this is Model Railroad Operations signing off.